We're going to get started on the open mic. I think we're going to go for the 4-minute, looking at the list. If you could keep to that, would appreciate it very much. And it has nothing to do with the fact that I'll be timing you and have the hook handy. All right. Let's see. So just a reminder again, family-friendly material, please. And have a good time. All right, I'm going to start with something from the other morning. Just kind of working this through. Grandfather's attic. Attic, not addict. Images from childhood hide their blurred drawings in corners with moth wings and mouse droppings. In a house in Connecticut where my mother and 3 younger sisters were raised in the 30s and 40s, and where as a child I would visit from our home a town away. The upstairs hallway of my grandfather's small house extended endlessly toward the mouth of 4 claustrophobic doors, as if each room's single window had been painted over by years of nightmares and Sunday services. I recall church bells before holiday dinners, but they never rang there. Nor did hollyhocks rising above my head ever flourish blossoms bright enough to let me see into my mother's past. As though something hid in the acidic soil of the backyard where my grandfather smoked his pipe and read his paper, a place where fallen apples fermented, and what hid there rose into the restless attic and was trapped there. An acrimony between sisters scratching at each other for a father's love. If only the doors were there waiting. Let me try that again. An acrimony still living there waiting to be released when the last sister dies. If only the doors with their worn brass knobs had keys or a desire to open and let in a grim pink light. I hold these images, my perspective from childhood, an ever-changing attitude like an Escher drawing. Stairways leading to starlit balconies, tumbling as quickly to catacombs. Turning and twisting over and over the years until void and vortex confuses childhood emotions into amnesia and separation. And still, something creaks the beams and rafters of my grandfather's attic over my mother's forgotten sisters, and still she longs for a love that does not come. First up, Jules.
Good evening. Came out with a book recently, Hippie Christianity, having a website there too, and I got a couple extra copies. See me afterward and I'll give you a copy. I have 2 song lyric poems here, one for Christmas, and it's a comedy song poem, and one for the New Year's. And this was one of the most popular Christmas songs in 2002 by a country and western joker by the name of Dr. Elmo. Grandma Grandma got run over by a reindeer. She'd been drinking too much eggnog, and we begged her not to go, but she forgot her medication and staggered out the door into the snow. When we found her Christmas morning at the scene of her attack, she had hoof prints on her forehead and incriminating sled marks on her back. Grandma got run over by a reindeer walking home Christmas Eve. You can say that there's no such thing as Santa, but as for me and Grandpa, we believe. Now we're all so proud of Grandpa. He's been taking this so well. See him in the living room watching football, drinking beer, and playing cards with Cousin Mel. There's no Christmas spirit without Grandma. All the family's dressed in black, and all the family wonders if we should open her presents or just send them back. Now the Christmas feast is on the table, and there's that pudding made of fig. Ah! And the blue and silver candles would just about match the hairs on Grandma's wig. It was then that I warned my friends and neighbors, better watch out for yourselves. They should never have given a license to a man in red pajamas who talks to reindeers and plays with elves. And this is for the new year, and it's from On the Avenue, 1937, The Old Year's Complaint. This year's crops of kisses don't seem as sweet. This year's crops of kisses just misses what kisses used to be. This year's new romance doesn't seem to have a chance. Even helped by Mr. Moon above, this year's crops of kisses is not for me, for I'm still wearing yet last year's love.
Thank you, Jules. Next up, Bill McConchie.
Good afternoon. I have 3 poems that are related to the seasons. First one is for Thanksgiving. A thankful word on Thanksgiving Day. Today's a day for giving. Giving thanks for all we see, for all we hear and learn, for which we yearn, from which we flee. For life itself is a blessing, with all its good and bad. For only living beings like us contrast happy days from sad. The lonely boulder by the shore will last 1,000,000 years, but never feel or know what's real, or laugh, or shed some tears. Today's a day for family, for friends and roasted bird, to stuff ourselves with stuffings, to rest after huff and puffing, to share a thankful word. In closing, thus I say, I'm blessed to know you all, to have your hugs and doubts and shrugs this holiday of fall. May life bless you all in the year to come. And this next one is for Christmas, and it's called Christmas Morning. 'Twas morning on Christmas, and all through the hood, folks were still dozing in beds warm and good. Bill was up first, retrieving the paper, checking the headlines, saving puzzles for later. Heather was dreaming of sweet pecan pie, a crust not too moist, a crust not too dry. Jennifer bathed and spruced up with care, first plucking eyebrows, then combing her hair. Meanwhile, Richard, at his duplex alone, planned his attire for his visit to home. Then up on the rooftops began pitter-patter. First just a dripping, then full winter splatter. Oregon sunshine darkened the gaze for the 40th time in the past 30 days. Fully undaunted, guests plotted their routes with GPS guidance to yon whereabouts. Over this road and that, by the streets then the highways, avoiding all dangers, choosing favorite byways. Maria and James, Nancy and others drove off to visit cousins, sisters and brothers. Arriving at 5 with salad and cheer, they were greeted with hugs and warm smiles ear to ear. The rest of this poem has not yet been written, for it was composed Christmas morning while I was just sitting by the fireplace burning as pies were both cooking, and for the following phrase, I'm afraid I'm still looking. So I wish you all well. I have no more to write. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. And this last one is brief, just about an ice storm that we had a couple of years ago here in Eugene. It's called Making the Best of the Worst. The worst ice storm in 40 years. Encases trees and bushes too. Sun twinkles nice, but can't thaw ice with temperatures below 22. Overcast skies drag on, too icy to go out and walk. We've decided to hide, so we cuddle inside and sip on our cocoa and talk. Our challenges aren't too many. The dogs would go out in the rain, but with ice on the deck, they say, "What the heck?" and cower and wait and abstain. We did a bunch of chores, but ran out of things to do, so we baked gingerbread, and before going to bed, I jot this sweet poem for you.
Next up, Raven.
Raven, yay!
Thank you, Charles. My name is Raven. I'm a female poet. I go to page 3 poetry. This one's called Where's the Beef? The sound, like a whisper, gradually it increases. No one really notices the noise. They're busy in the dining room. After all, we've made deviled egg sandwiches for our early dinner. The matriarch dog, ears gradually raised, as she hears something, not able to fully grasp the noise. As familiar, she looks around, and to no avail, nothing. Thud! Like a massive bass drum, a slight shockwave rattles all the windows and everyone jumps. Deviled egg on the ceiling, floor, and in places only a dog's tongue can reach. The backyard! The dogs freak out. They jump as if the ground wishes to eat them alive. As they land back on their paws, they start running in circles, around and around, barking at the sight in the middle of the yard, unable to grasp the severity of a sunken mass that has landed in the middle of the lawn. The humans, they look outside. What happened? What's going on? They look at each other and then the yard. What is that in the middle of the lawn? The dogs start to calm down and cautiously approach the mass. Leaning towards the mass, their noses eagerly working the invasive thing with a cautionary sniffling. All factories in full operation. The owners open the sliding screen door and the dogs jump back, barking like at the mass, as if it had come alive. Hair raises on their backs as if some sort of primal beast wishes to eat them. Owners grab the dogs, put them in the house, close the sliding glass door. The dogs are freaking out, adrenaline tearing the curtains of the sliding glass door. They feel obligated to defend their humans. The two humans approach the mass. What can this be? It's disgusting. After careful examination, they figure out it's a cow. Somehow, a cow fell from the sky, frozen. And on impact, it became mostly a jumbled melting biomass. The owners look at each other, look up, then back at each other again. The man says, "How can this be? How can such a thing happen? Where did this come from?" They go in the house and place the triggered dogs in the garage. The male owner gets on his iPhone and calls the sheriff's department. He explains how there's a sunken, frozen, melting cow in his backyard. The person on the other end hangs up. He calls back, "There is a frozen cow in my backyard, and it fell from the sky." After a brief discussion, the dispatcher is convinced this is not a joke. A sheriff's deputy is sent to the residence. She takes a statement and calls for animal control. After about an hour, animal control arrives and examines the site. By then, the cow is mostly thawed out and has started to attract all sorts of insects that love to eat flesh. The temperature is in the upper 90s and very humid, and it now won't be long before the sunken cow starts rotting. The owner asks the authorities, "Do you have any way to remove this?" Both authorities look at each other, and after a short discussion, they both agree it's not their department, and the cow belongs to the homeowner. As the sheriff deputy and animal control leave, the owner realizes he has some work to do. After all, eventually he is able to load the bovine remains into his pickup and haul it to the dump before it closes. That's right. That night, before bedtime, he lets the dogs out to relieve themselves. As soon as the dogs are out the door, they start barking as if the entire episode had just occurred. But shortly after, they calm down and walk up to the bovine crater, and after eagerly sniffing it with caution, and the matriarch pees on the crater. She has now taken back the backyard from the invasive thing that smelled like remnants of her doggy treat and pathetic kibble. As the owner settles into bed, the man turns on the TV, and it's 11 o'clock news. A brief story being aired. Air Force One flew over his city, and the plane had to make an emergency landing. It lost its cargo door and all of the president's beef.
I heard of a crow falling from a sky, or a cow falling from the sky, but it was a typo. It was a crow. All right, who's up next? Bob Nordstrom.
Yes, I've always found it interesting, you know, that the family members, immediate family members can be so completely different and have so little in common. The title of this, other than blood, the thickness is blood, obviously, is strength, but this is called a family portrait. I was born to argue with myself, therefore others, or vice versa. See what I mean? As a child, family dinner conversations, the problem to be solved, resolved, stringy pressure cooker pot roast and boiled carrots, taking the brunt of all those questions, quandaries left rotting on the table. Eat what's on the plate, the word, the last word, the final word. I swallowed, hungry for more words. But there it is. That disruptive conjunctive pause meant discursive, interpreted argumentative, offered only the word. A 1950 Sunday morning ride down Monroe Street, sepia-toned Rockwell portrait, 2 in the back seat, 2 in the front, dressed in Sunday's best, wishing this first day were the last. Nothing settled in the pew's burnished silence. How shall we understand this tableau of 4? Poor father wishing to awake but not arise. A Sunday morning nap after 6 days and nights of work, to rest on the day of rest. Why, he might wonder, is God's 7th our first? Only he with reason and right to complain, which he does all the way down Monroe, shifting in the pew, eyes drooping shut, his way of arguing with God. And mother, sweet sad mother, soprano lilt lifting hymns to heaven, brain cells even then dissolving into childhood's sludgy dreams. I wish to shout, no, mother, no, return. Day 1 is day 7, the calendar lies. Which leaves 2 in the back seat, Bill and Bob, alliterative siblings, stirring the stew of their respective sibling placement. What they argue, becoming who they become. The man in the pulpit commands, believe. One says yes, the other but. 60 years later, front seat empty, only 2 remain. Long-distance conversations thicken the blood's connections, drape memory's flesh over the empty seats in front. Though still they sit on opposite sides of the seat, heads turned away to view the world they pretend is true. Their hands rest on the empty space between, the ampersand by which they are joined. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Next up, Mr. Mertz.
Hey. Sorry.
Thank you. See if you had a
Yeah. And you thought you were rid of me. But let me amplify on what our friend Charles Castle had said. Page 2 poetry is back as page 3 poetry. 245 Van Buren in the Wit. It's kind of crazy, but it's very experimental and a lot of fun, and a lot of young folks out there, and some of us who aren't quite so young. So page 3, give it a go.
And a good sound system.
And a good sound system. Well, I'll tell you, Joy Harjo, who is a Native American poet, I saw her at the U of O and was very, very inspired. She talked about the trickster in the Plains Indian, and the Plains Indian trickster is rabbit. And we have on the West Coast, we have coyote. Down in the Southwest, we have raven. Up here, they're back east, they have squirrel. So, but the two that I really like the most are the European ones. Loki, we all know Loki, he is quite an evil trickster, and my favorite, Fool. So this is called Loki Among the Flowers. Inured to beauty, Loki walked the autumn hills, reveling in the mischief of death. The flowers were gone, having flung their bright petals into the hungry mouth of winter. Summer's sweet scent had been swept away by chill winds. Loki liked it that way. He was, after all, a wanton trickster, and this was the ultimate trick that the earth played on all things living, the fading away, the passing into night. Loki chuckled at the irony. He came across Fool, sitting among the dead and dying plants. He was plucking the ephemeral white globes that the dandelions had left behind, smiling with foolish wonderment as he blew the delicate dancing seeds into the winter wind. "Some trickster you are," Loki sneered, "blowing those stupid seeds into a wind that doesn't care." He plucked a white orb of seeds from the rain-soaked field, frowning at its delicacy. "You know that they will just end up on somebody's lawn." "And that is the greatest trick of all," Fool exclaimed. He took his motley hat from his head and held it high, jingling its bells at the uncaring winter. "They will sprout in the spring, and many people will find the beautiful flowers irritating," he continued. "Some will tolerate them, some will pull them, some will mow them down." He crammed his jingly hat back on his head and smiled up at Loki. "But the children will wait all summer long for these white globes of dancing seeds. They will blow them into the wind and make wishes." Fool looked into the cloudy distance. "And that is the most wonderful of ironies, that the children, sweet children, will blow the seeds far and wide and will drive the adults mad with yellow flowers." Loki's cruel smile softened a bit, at the thought of innocent children harassing the world-weary adults with seeds and flowers. "Yes," he agreed, "there is some trickery there." Fool patted the ground. "Sit with me," he said. "We shall drive the world mad." So Loki sat on the damp ground next to Fool, and together they blew flowers into the wind. Thank you.
Thank you, Joshua. In an example of life imitating art, our sponsor down at the page 3 venue is actually Loki. That's this guy's name. All right, next up, Jim Higgins. Come on down. Jim's still here. Did we lose Jim?
Jim.
Hello, Jim. All right. Next up, Gary Battles. Do I have that right?
Yep.
Gary, all right.
This first writing is called Mother Earth. Throw down your watches and watch her. Throw down your watches and watch her. My, oh my, there are tears in her eyes. Where has this lady been? She's ragged and dirty and hurting. She's ragged and dirty and hurting. Mother Earth is in a spin. Put our ears to the ground and listen. Put our ears to the ground and listen. My, oh my, there's rumbling down inside. Something's missing. She's ragged and dirty and hurting. She's ragged and dirty and hurting. Mother Earth is in a spin. Thank you. This is called the Native American Blues. I always thought it was odd that Americans pretty much tried to wipe out the Indians, and then we named automobiles after them. They tried to kill all the Indians, even old Chief Pontiac. They even tried to kill all the Indians, even old Chief Pontiac. Thank God for the automobile industry. Jeep Cherokees are where it's at. I haven't got the blues, it's plain to see. I haven't got the blues, it's plain to see. I haven't got the blues have got me. They tried to kill all the Indians, even old Geronimo. They tried to kill all the Indians, even old Geronimo. But a Chevy Apache will take you anywhere you want to go. I didn't wake up with the blues. Yeah, you heard me right. I didn't wake up this morning with the blues. Yeah, you heard me right. I didn't wake up with the blues because I didn't get to sleep last night. The Cleveland Indians had team spirit, just like the Atlanta Braves. Cleveland Indians had team spirit, just like the Atlanta Braves. Leads me to ask myself, is baseball being played on top of Indian graves? Winnebagos were an Indian tribe from the Midwest, an Indian tribe from the Midwest. They got driven down the road to an RV park. To extinction is my best guess. Here's one that's a little lighter. Advil, Benadryl, Dayquil, NyQuil, had my fill, make out a will, yes, we're getting old. Excedrin, Claritin, Motrin, Anacin, Robitussin, where have you been? I've been getting old. Rolaids, bromaids, first aids, hearing aids, I had it made in the shade. I can't get paid because I'm too old. Health insurance scams, ICAM, heat wrap, don't give a crap. Constipation, medicated, outdated, I'm getting old. Chicken pox, Maalox, been way around the block, Bengay, Touche, get out of my way, because I'm getting old. Acid reducer, acid reflux, acid flashbacks, then relax. Relax, don't like rap, I guess I'm getting old. Preparation H, my butt aches, heat stroke, I used to smoke dope, it's no joke, I'm getting old. Eyeglasses, hot flashes, cold packs, jump back, they're smoking crack and I'm getting old. Vapor rub, fell in the tub, Bengay, oil of Olay, false teeth, knees are weak, can't take a leak, no relief, I'm getting old. That's not funny. Milk of magnesia, I'm having a seizure. Miralax, send a fax, depend, say amends, we're getting old.
That's enough.
All right, I'm getting old.
We're all getting old. Mike Schuler, please, come on down.
Had to lighten it up.
Good wine. Better be.
I remember a shirt my mother used to wear after a trip to Northern California. A picture of a redwood round, prominent in its design. Rings counted to show the length of life of the giant sequoia. There, the moon landing. There, the world wars. There, the Declaration of Independence. There, Columbus sailed. There, Galileo and Michelangelo. There, the crucifixion of Christ. And at its heart, the seacoast and mountains of Yurok and Hoopa and Klamath, where trails ran through forest from village to village, between hunting and gathering sites. There, on different paths, someone saw the seedling. Someone walked by the tree, destined to live 2,000 years. Someone stood before it prior to its fall, in awe of its presence and size. Just as we stand before young centenarians in the grove above the Smith River and marvel at the brevity of our existence, marked by moments memorized. There, the trail we walk. There, a goal realized. There, leaders died. There, a war fought for our side. There, learning to survive. There, chasing fireflies. There, looking into the sky, counting stars, childlike. And this is one inspired by a grandson. Dances in the dark. The boy appreciates poetry. He has been seen reading it, but he would never write it, it being thought unmanly. And he thinks about roles he can play, and about maybe being an actor, but he has no stage or no knowledge of what it takes to be one. Or maybe someday being a musician, but he has no instrument or encouragement to sing. And he thinks he would like to be a dancer, but will not express it for fear of the laughter that will follow. So he says jokingly he wants to be a comedian and pretends an interest in the accepted visual arts. And even though he has difficulty staying inside the lines, he can draw a pretty good bird. And alone, he dances in the dark, practicing for the day he will shine. Okay, this is short. This is osmosis. Our lives are shaped by tributary streams, rain and wind, erosions and found terrain. From the beginning of our course to the end, we absorb the world and carry pieces of it with us. When we touch, we yield into each other and create canyons, lake beds, shorelines, seabirds.
Thank you, Mike. Next up, Carol Hoddle. Do I have that right?
You do.
All right.
Good job.
Lucky if I get a quarter.
Somebody's left their J. Michael's books placeholder up here, so just in case you're looking for it. Anyway, the poem I'm going to read now is also from Terra Incognita, and it's one of the poems I wrote at a time in my life when I was writing in kind of the vernacular of the place I'm from. You know, the way that people talk, kind of the rhythms of the language there, you know, kind of a regional kind of thing. And one of the things that I find, this one is about my brother who was in Vietnam in the war, but that I wrote others about my grandparents, different sort of almost like a farm, landmarks, family types of things. So this really fits into that category. And as such, even though this has a serious topic, there's a certain level of comfort in this because of the language in which it's written. And I'm sure you'll feel it. It's called Bobby. We went to see about the sheep tonight. After I heard them bleating too loud through the window, I'd opened to hear summer night sounds. I thought there might be dogs. You came with your shotgun stuck between the front seats of the car I'd brought home to you. We drove up to Grandpa's, rolled down the windows, turned off the lights and parked on the side. The sheep here were quiet, sleeping. We went back down to the other field, driving slow with lights off, and heard a commotion. You grabbed the gun. But no, it was just pigs, fighting and banging the doors of their houses. I'd heard dogs, or thought I had. We listened, you decided it was all right and put down the gun. You drove me back and thanked me anyway. You knew I cared. That night I felt like I used to when you were in high school and you came in for making hay and drank all the iced tea I'd made and came back later for blackberry pie. And the way I used to when I watched you play football and saw you in college become a Marine. When we baked those cookies we sent you overseas for Christmas, we didn't know how far away it was, or how lonely. Or quickness with a gun was not for shooting dogs, getting into sheep. I wish I had, because it's never been the same since you've been back. Was it when you begged me to write, I didn't answer until it was too late to tell you it would be all right, that we were still the same, that when you came home it would be all right, it was just the same, until something had happened so bad to you, you'd come back shell-shocked as shell. Something so bad to take you away, even when we were in the same room. For years you haven't smiled your old way. For years I haven't known how to reach you. Maybe it's the sheep which make me finally feel near you, so back deep inside. The night I visited you on the tenant farm, it rained, and you put a new lamb in the closet to dry. It came out while I was there, bleating for milk. Now you're home, you have lots of sheep, some goats, and a little girl who feeds them. When you come in from the fields, I rub your hands as we sit and talk. Bobby, I don't know war or guns, or what has hurt you so bad, but you're still my brother. I see the newness of your baby and how she skips and plays. You're still my brother. My brother, I love your baby. I'll help you watch your sheep from the dogs. Thank you.
Next up, Joy, you got anything for us?
One poem.
All right.
And it seems kind of appropriate since I noticed the title of this aisle is Bibles.
You come to the right place.
Yeah, and these are characters out of the Old Testament, ancient characters. It's titled Antediluvian Patriarchs, is what they were called, and Actuarial Tables. I waited for Methuselah to develop dementia. After 969 years, you'd think a few gray cells might fail. But he was able to shoot sperm into the sweet spot and spawn children centuries into the game. His grandson Noah almost eclipsed that record, but after 950 years, he was worn out from building his boat and feeding the animals and shoveling tons of manure overboard. Moses was dealt only 120 years, but Adam lasted 930 years and had a third child, Seth, almost 1,000 years after Cain and Abel wasted their fame fighting. Did anyone ask Eve how her delivery went at that advanced stage? Seth married his sister, so maybe humanity carries a speck of genetic rot. Maybe dementia is a new disease related to plastics, like the toxic lure of Mrs. Robinson's boy toy. I write stories and verses. Sometimes I exaggerate or doctor the details, but I'm cutting down on plastic bags and leftover containers. I store extra spaghetti in glass bowls with washable lids. My aching feet moan at the mention of a 900-year run. How to keep up with my toenails, do laundry, fill the pantry, and cook all those meals. Methuselah was the man.
Thank you, Joy. All right, we've got two more poets. Penina. Sally? Right.
This was a lot of fun this afternoon. I really liked your, I must be getting old, because I just want to say, I must be getting young, because I'm going to read my poem on this phone. I've never done that before, so I must be getting young. So these are just little tiny prayers, and I'd like to share them with you. Sunflower Sutra. When grief seems to outlive the everlasting, turn toward the delicate. Let the yellow of all yellows, those rich chestnut browns and blacks, center you keenly like a honeybee plunging wholly into pleasure. That's one. Next one is Backyard Sutra. Long day at the office got you down. Lean against the oak tree. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Let the oak tree take those bloody woes. Let go, let go, let go. Can you hear that little chickadee? Sing, sing, sing. And the last one, the Full Moon Sutra. It was the pink full moon in April. Okay, Full Moon Morning Sutra. I open my door and welcome the first warm morning. It is still dark as I round the corner. April's pink full moon illuminates 4 pristine rays, the shining cross of light, how the Magi must have felt. Songbirds awaken my silence. It is a good day to call in sick.
Much, and last but not least, Amy. Oh, did I miss Connie? Oh, I missed Connie. Please come up. You're right. I see where I jumped. Connie. Yep. James. Yep, you're right. See, Jim didn't show up, and that got me off track. Got you right there.
Go ahead, honey.
All right. Step right up. We'll get you. Good. Got it. Right.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Right up close.
Well, I'll be brief. And I realize that I do ponder a lot. And so I've been concretizing it with words, but I still ponder. And so this one, because have been and still as a mother of 5, I'm always trying to protect them, of course. And this is called knowing. What is true? What is right? What is lasting? The context should always be considered, especially when one could be in danger. For example, please look both ways when you're crossing a busy street, even when the signal light is in your direction.
Just, Connie,
One's ability to discern
oh, we lost you.
or judge what is true Did they get them?
One more time,
Should I start over?
if you want.
No, I don't want.
We do.
One's ability to discern or judge what is true. Sometimes the senses are not there. For example, don't take your valuables in a dangerous part of town. Lock your abode properly while you sleep and protect your property at all times. Being mindful is being wise, while never losing your ability to trust. Put the rose-colored glasses away, then treasure each day with a smile on your face. Thus, you have lit the way to sing again.
All right.
Bring Jim back.
Jim Higgins. And last but not least, Amy, come on down. You better.
Sorry. I was busy taking pictures and I lost my phone. All right. Warning label. As I finished digging into my favorite late night treat, I noticed a warning label. Clearly written on a sticker, smack dab in the middle of a jar lid. My favorite treat is cashew coconut butter on a wild rice cake or just on a spoon. It's very healthy, full of nutrition, but it does cost $11.59 for an 11-ounce jar, so I try and make it last for at least 3 sittings. That night, as I realized I'd eaten about $5 worth of cashew coconut butter and screwed the lid back on, there with my not-so-great eyes, I saw this warning in easy-to-read black capital letters. No added sugar, not a low-calorie food, reduced calorie food, or low-fat food. See nutrition information for sugar, calorie, fat, and saturated fat content. I'm sorry, what? My favorite snack made as nature intended it, with nothing weird added to it that never upsets my overly sensitive tummy, that's full of vitamins and minerals, needs a warning, a big fat warning? Meanwhile, I have to scrunch up my eyes in the store reading other labels just to rule out monosodium glutamate, polysorbate 80, hydrolyzed yeast extract, maltodextrin, sodium caseinate, magnesium stearate, dextrose, propylene glycol, also used as an antifreeze, and other weird stuff not found in nature. Not found in nature and sadly linked to higher rates of cancer, neurological problems, and other things leading to worsening health. Those items are never listed in giant letters on a jar lid for folks without their glasses on to clearly see. Those items are written in tiny, blurry letters, hiding amidst the real food contents listed in hopes we won't notice them. Furthermore, why do I have to shop at the special little store to buy unadulterated food products when the shelves in cheaper stores are packed with food-like products loaded with chemicals? Also, there's never a warning label telling me about the possible corrupt, rainforest burning, water stealing, low page weighing, LGBTQ discriminating companies like Nestle, Kroger's, and more make the food I'm eating. That's the warning I want. This makes no sense to me, this American way of looking at food. How about we list the ingredients and pay attention to what chemicals might be in our food and what company makes them, and do away with worrying about anything else, except for how many nights will my jar of yummy cashew coconut butter that my body really likes and tastes really, really good get to last me before I have to go to the special little store full of only real food and pay another $11.59 for another jar.
Amy, and that is our open mic for the evening. I haven't missed anybody, have I? All right. So as we head into the Christmas season, I hope all of you will find the opportunity to express yourself, and we will see you back here the second Sunday in January. Have a great Christmas. And thank you to Bob and Emily and to everybody who read as our featured